As am I.
Alright. And we are back. We were talking about coming up with an intro.
Here's my idea. Hello. Welcome to D&D episode 3.
That seems a little creepy and it could get kind of annoying after like one sitting.
Yeah. I'm really tired.
Are you in
It's
college or something?
yeah, a little bit. I So if I say weird crap, weirder than usual,
I'm not sure that's possible.
that's why. It's, This is going great already.
Do we want to restart?
Nah, no, it's too late. It's like there's just a point when you reach a certain
Wow, the English language just completely failed you.
there's a point where you just gotta roll with it. You just gotta be like, I could wallow in my tiredness and my inability to communicate, or you could just be like, you know what, this is me now. This is my.
Well, I mean, you should always be striving to be better. Don't just accept where you are. But
Nice.
definitely, acceptance is better than giving up.
I don't know. Sure, I guess.
I mean, I guess if you had to pick the lesser of two evils.
It's just, yeah. But the problem is when you're so exhausted, it's just kind of like, do you just kind of, all right, well, I'm too tired to do anything, and I won't since I'm not at functioning at full brain capacity, should I do anything? And my thought is like, well, yes. What the heck, man?
I'm setting a timer so I don't forget to check my recording.
Oh,
Because occasionally listening to you, I end up spacing out.
that's cool.
Well, no, I'm not spacing out, but like, no, pay attention to this. I'm listening to you.
Oh,
So I won't pay attention to this. So hopefully the timer
Oh yeah,
will
yeah,
remind
yeah,
me to, hey, look down, buddy.
Oh,
You gotta make sure this is still working.
Gotcha.
We're trying a new setup again,
Yeah.
so bear with us.
Well, yeah. One way or another, our faces and or voices will make it to.
Well, I mean, we kind of need the voices. The faces can be missing, as we proved last
So
week.
here's a thought: we could, instead of, what am I trying to say?
I don't know. What are you trying to say?
We could do like a silent film setup.
We could, however, that won't make an interesting podcast.
I mean, I'm sure there's a niche. There's a niche for everything.
Well, the podcast format is audio.
But we could be the pioneers. We could be
the silent film
yeah,
video.
yeah, moving back about
I'm not
80
that good of an
years.
actor.
Where you have to be like,
Well, no, see, I like that's one thing, but I'm talking like animated enough to get an emotion /
oh,
idea across
yeah.
without saying something.
yeah.
And today's viewing audience doesn't want to have to read to follow what's going on.
That's true. Just kind of like, feed me plot devices.
Feed me pretty images.
That's,
Why do you think the Transformer movies did so well?
That's, yeah. That's just kind of like, Mike. I don't want to, because I don't know. No offense to Michael Bay, but that's just kind of like how the dude rolls.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. We should not be rewarding him for doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I have personally not seen the last, I believe, 3 Transformer movies.
I saw the first two. How many are there? I've lost track.
5 at least.
And he's directed every single one of
Yes.
them? Oh, boy.
I want to say there's a 6th one in the works. Actually, you know what? Let me double check this.
Oh, boy. Yeah, the thing is, as a kid that grew up watching the cartoon, I was kind of like, yeah, Transformer movie, live action. There are Transformers in the real world.
7.
I'm sorry? There are 7?
Well, I don't know if they're all released, but there are at least 6. That's Transformers was the first one. That was 2007.
Yep.
Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was 2009. Dark of the Moon was 2011. Age of Extinction was 2014. The Last Night was 17. And apparently this year they're coming out with Bumblebee the movie. So that's 6, and apparently there's a 7th one also possibly in the works.
Ay, ay, ay.
So there are 5 released right now. I was right on that count.
That's...
And I have seen 1, 2, and I think the last 5 minutes of 3 because I came home and my roommate was watching it with a bunch of other people. So I sat down and watched the last 5 minutes, and it was dumb. I believe it was that one. No, actually, it was probably Extinction because it was the first one with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, okay.
Whichever one the first one with Mark Wahlberg is.
No. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I may have actually seen the third one. I did see the third one off. Like I saw most of it.
Yeah.
I kept walking away. I didn't see it in theaters.
Yeah, it wasn't interesting enough to be like...
Oh, it's so dumb.
Mm,
There are some very cool scenes in it. Like Michael
Yeah.
Bay can direct action,
yeah.
but how is it a guy who can direct action has now made explosions boring? Everything blows up in those movies.
Yeah, it's basically a meme at this point.
It really is.
It's just like, Michael Bay explosions! Bwee!
Like put anything together, put one explosion in it that's out of place, and just be like directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
I saw a video actually where it was these 2 bees flying. One was flying out of a hive, one was flying into it,
Yeah.
and they just kind of like miss each other. But someone did a composition where an explosion covered both of them,
What?
and it was just like directed by Michael Bay.
Oh, man. Yeah, so kind of... I don't know. I wanted to like it, I feel like with any reboot where it's especially of an 80s or well, it was more than 80s. Well, it started in the 80s. But I watched the cartoons in like the mid 2000s. And so I was like, yeah, I'm ready.
See, I never watched a cartoon.
Yeah.
I saw like tiny bits and pieces of episodes and trailers and stuff like that, and I saw the toys.
Yeah.
I own like some of the ridiculously cheap
Mm-hmm.
toys, like the McDonald's ones,
Mhm.
and like the super cheap ones from like Walmart,
Yeah.
stuff like that. They were real basic. They were cool. Cool idea.
Yeah, no, I was definitely a kid that jumped on the Transformer bandwagon.
I actually seem to remember you having several
Ye-
different Transformer toys.
Yeah, it and because it was like a thing. It was, well, there were, as a youth, there were quite a few things that everyone had and that you collected. So it was like,
See, I missed Yu-Gi-Oh! I missed Pokemon.
yeah,
I
yeah,
missed Transformers. I
Mhm.
was a G.I. Joe guy,
yeah,
but I didn't watch the show.
yeah,
I watched a couple of the movies, like the cartoons,
yeah.
and then I watched the live-action movies that came out.
Mhm.
I thought they were enjoyable. They weren't
Yeah.
great. They
Yeah.
were kind of dumb, but they were fun. They had some good
Yeah.
actors and some good characters, and
Yeah,
I mean, it was over the top, but of course, I mean,
That-
it's based off of toys from the '80s that was
Yeah.
action stuff, so it was over
Mhm.
the top anyway.
yeah. The cartoon, especially the early cartoons, are ridiculous.
Yeah, like I said, I never watched the TV shows.
Yeah,
Just the movies.
yeah.
So they were a little more toned down because they had more plot to them.
yeah. Just the what's the word I want? The absurdities and like G.I. Joe breaks through 15 walls.
Well, of course.
Well, yeah. It's kind of like the whole like yeah, that thought wasn't going anywhere, so I'm just going to abandon it. Yeah, I was last week after we shot this, I was hanging out at my girlfriend's house and we watched the intro to Thundercats. I was just like,
Another show I have not seen.
man, it's like I want to watch old shows just to say, oh yeah, I get it. I get the references now.
Yeah.
But that's a
They're so hard to get through.
yeah. A lot of those '80s cartoons have not aged well, and I think the only reason that people would be able to watch them now is because they watched them as a kid, and the nostalgia.
Sure, they had a connection with the characters, so they still kind of have that even to today.
Yeah, I would even say that's just media consumption 101. It's just like
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, definitely there are certain movies and shows and stuff that'll bring you back no matter what, because they're actually good. They have compelling points or arguments or viewpoints or something that makes you come back and you kind of get something new out of it every time you watch it. Now, those are rare. Very, very rare.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll agree for the most part why people go back to movies, especially like 10 years or so from now when technology is entirely different when it comes to movies, is because that's what they're used to. They're familiar with it. They're connected with it at some point.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars.
I
mean, come on, the effects for the original trilogy,
they're pretty bad.
they're bad. They're
Yeah.
bad. You can like see the strings almost on some of them.
And this is like the original, not the remastered. Like,
Right. The remastered are better, but even then they have not aged super well.
Yeah.
They're better.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually own the remastered instead of the originals because of how
As
late
do
I
I.
got to the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen the originals.
Yeah. I feel like I saw them as a kid, and then yeah, and I'm pretty sure I had this thought when I watched the remastered ones. I was just like, wow. And I didn't realize that they were remastered, and I wasn't really thinking that was even a possibility. It's like, wow, this came out in 1977. Wow. But yeah, so good on you, Lucas, for convincing.
For once.
Oh,
Hey, now come on.
he's,
You were bashing the prequels a couple weeks ago.
that's true, but it's like, I don't know, with anyone of that status, it's like, and who's done that much, it's like not everything he touches will be gold.
Well, and again, the reason that those are so good is because he listened to other people. He was collaborating a lot. It was a dream project. He really needed it to go well, so he was listening to people so that everyone would work with him. Because at the time, he was a fairly young director. He hadn't really done anything else. And then they took off. They became like a cult favorite, pretty much. Tons of people love them and stuff. And so he finally, he did a few movies and stuff in between. But then he came back and was like, I want to do what I wanted to do originally, which was prequels. I want to do the origins of Darth Vader. And he botched it up.
Rip. Yeah, and I'm thinking of Spielberg too, where it's just like he had his run in like the 70s and 80s, and then it just kind of like he's still making movies.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going as big as he was then though.
Yeah.
I think that he plays it safer now.
Yeah.
He already has the big fame and whatnot, so now he's doing more subtle things. And more nuanced things. Which isn't a bad thing.
No, definitely.
But even his original stuff, like obviously not everyone likes it. Everyone has their own personal taste. I wasn't a huge fan of Jurassic Park, any of them, including the original.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. Just never connected with me.
Mm.
Just didn't really enjoy it. Looks cool. It's very impressive from a visual effects standpoint.
Yep.
Because of the mixture of the visual effects,
Yeah.
which hold up fairly well.
ILM.
And the practicals,
Yeah.
even though you can see strings on some of them.
Mm.
You know the scene where it's in the rainstorm and the one guy's getting out of the Jeep to during like power off or whatever,
Yeah.
and then he gets attacked by the little dino thing with the neck flare. The little spitting.
Isn't that just like an anyway, not really, but
Anyway, when it does the neck flare thing, you can see the strings being pulled.
Yeah. I don't know if this is just me, and it's I love practical effects.
Effects are awesome.
because like,
Well, they actually look real, as long as they're done well and right.
yeah, and I think it's because I love Jim Henson's work. I love and it's like it has a particular look,
Huh?
and it's a little out there, but you know, it's still. Oh man, I remember when I saw Labyrinth.
Never watched it.
It's pretty out there, but it's a solid 80s
That's the
fantasy.
one where David Bowie is
Yep.
some evil wizard.
Yep.
And, yeah. No,
Yep,
never
that one.
watched it.
Yeah.
See, again, I missed out on a lot of these old movies. My parents didn't watch them.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone to watch them, and now kind of trying to go back and like looking at them. Kind of the same thing with the shows you were saying.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, this didn't really age well. Meh.
No, and I saw Labyrinth a couple of years ago, and I didn't grow up with it, but and I just there were two thoughts. It was A, yes, this hasn't aged well, but B, there's still an incredible detail, like well on the puppets. I'm saying
Sure.
like there's still like I think I don't know. Since it is fantasy, I think they can get away with they could get away with more.
Sure.
And so some of the I don't want to say models, but I don't know. The puppets themselves like obviously they have like the herky jerky movement,
Sure.
but it's just kind of I don't know. That's
Not necessarily supposed to look real.
yeah. It's that's just kind of, and I just think that's kind of how Jim Henson and any other puppeteer kind of does their thing, and you just
Sure.
kind of be like, it's kind of like it's just the art form. It's like, okay, I know this isn't real, but I want to. Well, the whole point is to obviously for any art form, it's like I want to convince this person that this is real,
Mhm.
at least on the visual side. And so, well, actually, no, that's not true. The same thing with audio. So I guess,
We want to convince them that it's real for the surroundings.
yeah,
You want it to blend. You don't want it to stand out
yeah,
as a fake look.
right.
Like your whole intent is to be like, this isn't real. Like say a monster or even
Right.
a set. This isn't real, but for them it's real. And
Yeah.
it works in this story
Mm-hmm.
as real.
Yeah, definitely.
But obviously you know it's fake. But Pandora comes to mind from Avatar,
Mm,
right? Filmed on a gray and
Yeah.
green studio,
yeah.
but it looks
Mm-hmm.
very good.
Yeah.
And very real.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't look real.
Yeah, it's kind of like the uncanny valley kind of. Well, that's more for
Well,
human.
it doesn't look real because it's not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Again, fantasy. Well,
Mhm.
sci-fi. But basically same
Yeah.
idea, same principle. Is that you do things that you cannot do here.
Mhm.
Like a planet that glows at night.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen here.
No.
Happens there.
Mm-hmm.
Works for there because that's how everyone there
Mm-hmm.
knows it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of going back to Labyrinth, it's like that, but since they didn't have computers on their side, they had to build these sets.
Oh yeah.
And
Which
so,
is super impressive.
yeah, so like,
Set designers and builders are incredible, especially
Yeah.
old school ones.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, someone if this interests you, someone to check out would be, I think his name is Ron Baker. Ron Baker, I think his name is.
Sounds right. I know what you're
Um,
talking about.
He was basically the pioneer of practical visual effects.
Mhm.
He did An American Werewolf in London, I think.
Didn't see it.
Um,
Heard of it.
yeah,
didn't see it.
I haven't either because I don't really do horror very well.
See, horror for me no longer really scares me.
Yeah,
I just don't enjoy it.
yeah. There's
They tend to be cheap movies, unless they're done right. For thrillers.
yeah, like just like Yeah, it's kind of I think practical effects were also more effective in the early days for horror because now everything is CGI, or I don't know. I heard this interesting. I was I was really into practical effects like a year ago, and I was like doing a lot of research, and um, there was this interview with these two guys that were basically veterans
Mm-hmm.
of doing practical effects, and so the interview was like, so what do you think of all this CGI stuff? Like they're like, honestly, it's an art form in itself. There's a place for practical effects. There's a place for
Mhm.
CGI.
And the perfect is when you blend them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that is when you sell an illusion. Because you have things that are actually there,
Mm-hmm.
and you have things that are not there.
Mm-hmm.
And the illusion part is making you believe it's all there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that with just visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not there. So
Yeah.
you don't have people looking directly at it.
Yeah.
You don't have people interacting with it.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so that can draw you out. Because, like, say they're supposed to be looking at something and they're slightly off as to where they're looking. Or they need to be touching something
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really there. So it looks wrong.
Yeah. That Wrinkle in Time that just came out.
Did
I
you
have
see it?
I have not.
Okay.
Cause have you?
No.
So I heard an interesting observation of someone who saw it, and this was someone who hadn't read the book as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he just saw it for the heck of it. He said that Oprah, who's in it, didn't touch a single person in the entire movie,
Interesting.
and it's just kind of like, oh, so that's obviously that's a hello CGI.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Just they just kind of plopped her in, or I don't know what the process was, but it was a super interesting observation. I was like, yep, that gave it away.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But if I ever do, it'd be an interesting thing to look out for.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ever going to see it, though. I saw the original movie. It was meh. I actually did read the book
Mm-hmm.
at least once. I think more of my parents read it to me,
Oh, okay.
probably. It was okay. From what I remember of it, which is not much, it was a fairly enjoyable little
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi tale.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fantasy sci-fi tale. That had some interesting things in it, but
Yeah.
overall for me, not really memorable. I remember a little bit more of the actual movie, the original one
really?
that came out. And even that's just because more of the visual styling of it
Mm.
kind of stood out, not the actual like plot line or characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, fairly forgettable, fairly
Mm.
uninteresting. Just kind of meh.
Yeah.
Never something I recommended to anyone.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to make any statement because I haven't I know people in my family and friends that have read it,
Mm-hmm.
but I have not. So I got to get on that. Another
Like I
book
said,
on the list.
I found it fairly forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for conversation, read it,
Mm-hmm.
but I found it fairly forgettable. Didn't
Yeah.
really enjoy it. Not something I would go back and read again.
Yeah.
I have a few things I go back and read every now and then. The Inheritance Cycle is one of them. Chronicles of Narnia.
Solid.
I watched Lord of the Rings. I cannot go back and read them very
Mhm.
often because they take forever.
Whew, yeah, Fellowship is.
Two Towers is harder.
There's a lot of walking.
Two Towers is harder because
Mhm.
nothing happens until the
Mhm.
end of the book. The book is this thick, and nothing happens until you get to here.
Classic.
Tolkien.
Yeah.
See, at least with C.S. Lewis, he's very interesting, and he doesn't spend that much time on detail.
Yeah.
Like, enough time on detail, but not
Mhm.
a ton of time on detail. He's more about trying to keep everything moving, trying
Mhm.
to keep, the characters interesting, the plot line going,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Much more interesting.
Just
A lot of his books are actually very interesting, even if they're not narrative driven.
no. I was about to say. I was like, talk about a jack of all trades in terms of writing.
Oh yeah.
So like you've got obviously the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yep.
Then you got, Mere Christianity
Yep.
and The Great
Screw-
Divorce.
The Divorce, Screw Tape Letters.
Like holy, like,
He's all over the place.
and it blows my mind because
Screw Tape Letters is another one I go back to. Sorry.
no, dude, that's
I actually got the audiobook for that.
the one with what's his name, Andy Serkis. Well, that's more of a radio drama.
I think the one I have is just the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
I think. I'd have to go back and check. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I listened to it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for that for me is that because it's letters
Mm-hmm.
between two people,
My Dearest Wormwood.
the audio is very interesting
Mm-hmm.
because it really helps differentiate between them because they use two different voices, at least the one
Yeah.
and one I listen to. Or one guy does two very distinct voices. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting to just listen to it as opposed to just read it, which reading it was very interesting too.
Yeah, yeah,
But the listening to it just kind of gave it more of that conversation
yeah.
type of piece, which, because it's not a narrative, works very, very well. I mean, I
Mhm.
enjoy audiobooks in general, but that
Mhm.
worked very well because it was very minimal for characters. It's literally
Yeah.
two characters talking back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. No, Screw Tape Letters is just. Mm.
It's a good one. And I go back to that one. I should probably read it again this year.
Mhm.
I read it beginning of last year.
Mhm. And it's a quick read.
Yeah, it's not very long.
Yeah, but
I think there's other things. C.S. Lewis doesn't really do long books overall. Like in general, he doesn't do really
yeah, I'm
long
trying
books.
to. Yeah.
Because Mere Christianity is only like
Yeah.
that. Great
Mhm.
Divorce is only like that. All of his Chronicles of Narnia are actually smaller than that.
But just kind of as a preface, it's like, yeah, it's short, but there's a lot of
yeah.
information.
I'm not saying there's not a lot there. I'm just saying that like he's very good at like getting to what he wants to talk about
Absolutely.
and then staying there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't fluff it up. He doesn't like beat around anything. He's just, all right,
Yeah.
you're here to learn something. You're here to
Yeah.
whatever. Let's get to it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if there was maybe this isn't true, but there were recordings of him reading some of his work. I'm trying to remember if that's true, but I don't know. But that's I always think that's kind of cool.
I mean, I'm back and forth on that because as a wannabe writer, as someone who
Mm.
wrote stories, who writes scripts,
Yeah.
stuff like that, I always saw myself as a writer,
Not as
not a reader.
Mm,
I wouldn't necessarily be able to do it justice because even though I know how I want the characters to sound and say things,
you can't convey that
I
yourself.
may not be the best person to convey
Mm.
that. I'd want to work with someone who is
Yeah.
actually talented in that field
Yeah.
and maybe talk to them about how I'd want a character to say something.
Mm.
In case it was, I mean, I'm also pretty good at like writing in
Mhm.
emphasis on sentences and you indicate something with like he says it sarcastically, he says it
Sarcastically.
Huh?
I was just gonna say sarcastically again.
sarcastically again,
Yeah.
stuff like that where it's a repeated or it's a thing I can normally write in so people understand it. However, there are some things people might read and be like they might put the emphasis on the wrong part of the sentence or
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Thoughts, words, English. Oh
C.S. Lewis. Wait. Huh?
no. It was kind of going off of audiobooks. Making audiobooks are time consuming.
Yeah, it really depends on
The
what you mean by making audiobooks.
so recording.
Well, so there's dramatizations where it's
No,
the
just-
exact same thing, or it's just someone reading it.
just the reading, because
Oh, very time consuming, especially depending on the size of the book.
yeah, I was talking to a local professor of mine and a local engineer who has been working on a couple of audiobooks, and he was just saying, "Whoa," it's because you want to make it as dry as possible, like no mouth sounds and
Yep.
like
Yep.
just psh. And since it's monotone speech generally, just since it's monotone speech and the fact that it's fairly long, it's just kind of like, whew, I'm feeling, whew.
Yeah.
So I just
Well, and I would actually say that the good audiobooks I listen to are not monotone.
yeah.
Like it's dry audio, and the
Mhm.
fact you don't hear like the
It's it's not in the space.
right,
It's just kind of
but
the voice.
you get someone who puts the emphasis on like how the characters are saying things
Mhm.
and the energy and stuff that's going on. Those are the ones I get sucked into the most.
Yeah, totally. I just remember in high school, we did Dr. Faustus, um, and we listened to an audiobook, or maybe it was either a dramatization or an audiobook, and whoo boy, it was the same person doing everything, and so in Marlowe's version of Dr. Faustus, there's a clown. And I don't remember the relevance of the clown, but there's a clown, and the clown, the voice for the clown was terrible. It just was like, and the character of the clown is also very animated and the kind of like all over the place, and so there was there was like this there was this part where the clown's running around or something, and the voice talent was just kind of like, and then like there were like footsteps, so it's like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was just like someone got paid to do this. Someone
Oh no.
someone thought this was okay. Why is this okay?
Oh no.
So the moral of the story is, read Dr. Faustus and don't listen to it. Well, no, there are way better. I've heard other audio renditions of Dr. Faustus, and they're much better. So I think it was just that one. But anyway,
Well, kind of jumping back just a little bit in the conversation to talking about books that I go back to.
yeah,
The other one I go back to just because I like the author is Ted Decker's Color Cycle or whatever it's called. The
yeah,
Black, Red, White,
Mhm.
Green.
Mm-hmm.
I have all those books, and I've only right now read them once. But I'm going back and reading them again now.
Yeah,
I'm going to be starting that pretty soon here.
nice.
And I like pretty much everything Ted Decker does. I mean, he's
Same.
weird.
I haven't
He's
read his
kind
stuff.
of dark.
Yeah, no, I like his stuff too. I think the last book I read by him was Emmanuel's Veins.
I haven't read that one. Last one I read by him was Priest Graveyard.
Yeah, I read that one.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, Priest Graveyard and Bone Collector.
Yeah.
That was probably the darkest he went.
Like, holy crap. I didn't actually read Bone Collector, but my sister did, and she was telling me about it, and I was like, I should check that out at some point, and then I just never did.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So, kind of, yeah, Bone Collector. What else? I'm trying to think of.
3.
I don't remember.
3 was kind of dark.
Did I
Actually, they
finish
actually made
3?
a movie of that,
Oh, that's right.
and it was horrible. It was horrible.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
did so little justice to the story.
Yeah, yeah, no, the reason the last book I read was Emmanuel's Veins was I was a snobby little ninth grader who just
But you? What?
yeah, and I was like, oh, I only want to read thrillers and murder
Oh, yeah,
and
read Stephen
suspense.
King then.
And so when Emmanuel's Veins came around, he wrote it with another person, I think, and it was a romance. and and like the cover looked BA, and I was just like, yeah, let's go, Emmanuel's Veins, blood, and I was like, what is this?
Where's the gore?
Yeah, where's the so I remember, because I wanted to read it as soon as it came out, and when it showed up at the Ithaca Library, I was like, yeah, I gotta get it. And then I was like, oh. So,
Oops.
And I haven't read a book by him since. But I still
Oh.
love his stuff.
I've always thought he and Lawhead should do a team up. Stephen Lawhead?
I don't think I've read any of his stuff.
He is one of the guys who worked on the Left Behind series.
Oh.
Jenkins and Lawhead,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. Pretty sure it's Jenkins and Lawhead. Hang on. Spell would help. Yeah, Stephen R. Lawhead. I know I've read a couple of his things. I want to say he was part of Left Behind, but maybe not.
Tim Lemoyne? Or not Lemoyne?
Things you've done. He did the Dragon King trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Pendragon Cycle.
Yeah.
Raven trilogy. The Dream Thief. That was a good one.
Was he the one who did Dragons in Our Midst?
Um,
When I think of someone else.
I don't see that one here.
Hmm.
I don't see that one here.
Hmm.
Anyway, so he did not do Left Behind, but he was he does several fantasy
Yeah.
world books, and I always thought he and
Decker. Yeah.
Decker could have made a pretty interesting pairing. I mean, Decker is
Mhm.
pretty good on his own. But
Yeah.
Lawhead has some, I think, better big world building
Mm-hmm.
than Decker does.
Totally.
I think the combination would be very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I wasn't old enough to really be into those books when they first came out, but since my sisters were into them,
Uh-huh.
so like I kind of secondhand read them. So like Hangman's Curse by anything by Frank Peretti,
Ooh,
Ted
Peretti's
Decker,
also good.
or there's one more,
Peretti, he's the one who wrote
This Present Darkness.
Yep, Pierce in the Darkness.
Yep, those two. And I say that, I kind of go back to that because I remember House, the book House by Decker and Peretti.
That one I did not read. That sounds very interesting, though.
So
That sounds like an interesting team up.
yeah, it's
Oh.
so think the spiritual warfare of Peretti meets the thrill of
Decker.
and suspense of Decker. So
Ooh.
it's pretty good.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds awesome.
Yep, I have a copy if you want it.
That sounds awesome. I have to read
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, so that was kind of a phase I had when I was younger. I read a lot of Decker, read a lot of Peretti. I think not. I wanted to get into Stephen King, but I never did. And yeah, nothing appealed to me.
Yeah, I mean,
We're kind of calling back to our
yeah.
discussion
Going
of
back on that. It was actually this guy I watched. He does a bunch of Stephen King reviews. He does one every year.
Mhm.
And one of the ones he did, I think it was the original It TV
Oh, it was Tim
movie.
Curry.
Tim Curry. And he decided to make, he didn't actually do this, but he decided to make a drinking game out of it. So it was like every time one of his tropes showed up,
Yeah.
you take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, where's the setting? Oh, it's Maine or somewhere in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a drunk. Oh, there's an author. Oh, there's the rednecks. Oh, there's, and like that was like the only half of it. Then there are story tropes,
Yeah.
And for some reason, again, this is calling back to what we talked about before. His twists
Yeah.
suck.
Mm-hmm.
At least in film. I've never read his books. Maybe they're better in the books. From what I understand, the book, was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But the twist in the TV thing, and I'm assuming in what's going to be in the second movie, I doubt they're going to be that good.
Yeah, because it's like the first part and it is like the kids and their first interaction with it or whatever it,
They call it It.
yeah, and then there's the second part where it's the them as adults
Right.
kind of defeating
Right.
it.
And describing what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Was The Shining Stephen King,
Shiny.
or was that just standalone? Was that just
I feel
Kubrick?
like that was. Well, we have the internet.
Yep. Number 3, Digital Brain. Because that would that would be really funny. I feel like I should know that, but
It is based on Stephen King's 1970 novel of the same name.
okay.
It is Stephen King.
So I think that, well, yes, it does take place in the Northeast, or it's been a while since I've seen The Shining.
This one is in Colorado Rockies.
Okay, all right. So, but there's still snow involved.
There's still snow involved. Got to get
Yeah.
that in there.
Because they're trapped in the
Hotel.
hotel,
Yep.
and yeah. So I think that one, is maybe not quite as classic King.
Yeah, I mean he does take a little bit of a break every now and then. He cranks
Mhm.
out some different ones.
And-
Green Mile.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shawshank Redemption was by him.
Yeah.
And that's a huge standout from his normal
It's
tropes. I've never read it. I've only seen the movie.
It's so good.
I've never read it.
Yeah.
Is it worth a read?
I mean,
Or if
I'm
you
I'm
only
going off the movie.
seen- Okay. Because if it's similar to the movie, then I agree. Because the movie was very good.
Um,
And again, huge break from his routine style. Like
Mhm.
huge break.
and I wonder if, because he's kind of known as, a guy that, churns out books like crazy.
Yes, I don't even know how many books he has out now.
It's a little much. But then it's like, you look at George R. R. Martin.
According to Google, he's written at least 97 books.
In the span of
It
like
just says 97.
40 something years.
I mean, I guess I could go into his book. That was just like the immediate answer that came up.
Wow.
Let's see here. He was born in 47.
Okay.
Um,
Excuse me.
when, let's see
Yeah.
here. When did he start writing? First book he sold was in 67, so he was 20 years old.
Okay, so wow.
So 50, 60 years now, right? The math right on that? 50 years?
Yeah.
51 years this year.
That's crazy.
51 years.
And
97, at least 97 books.
that's
Which is interesting because he's not an artist that had like a big catch on. He didn't have like a series
mm-hmm.
or something.
It's
Like
all-
he has some standout books,
yeah.
but he doesn't really write series.
Was Dark Tower just a book or was that a series?
Oh, that is a good question.
Mm.
But for the most part, I'm saying like he doesn't write series. He writes.
I don't know what it is about this podcast and what he's talking about.
That's a
Stephen.
series.
Okay, because I was like, I feel like there's more than one.
Yep, that's a series.
Okay.
Let's see. Does it say how many books are in the series?
I'm gonna take a gander and say there's 3.
Series. There are 7.
Oh, okay. That's
Started in 82, ended in 2004.
wow.
Nope.
No.
2012?
Whoa.
So, Dark Tower Gunslinger
Mhm.
came out in 82. The Drawing of the Three came out in 87. The Wastelands came out in 91. Wizard and Glass came out in 97. Wolves of Kala? Yeah, Kala came out in 2003. Song of Susanna came out in 2004, along with The Dark Tower. And then apparently he wrote an in-between book in there in 2012 called The Wind Through the Keyhole.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the first four were before 2000. Then there's 5, 6, 7, and then he wrote 4.5 in 2012.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Huh.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm guessing that's like just kind of like a fill-in book. It was obviously written much later, so it wasn't needed for the series. Maybe he just had something he wanted to fill in.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a gap or something
Hmm.
in the story.
Huh.
But 82 to 2012, technically.
Yeah, there's like
$7.
kind of going back to the Spielberg thing where it's
Uh-huh.
like, not everything he touches is gold, but like, generally,
I mean, if you're a horror junkie or a that kind of setup,
royalty.
well, I'm talking like if you like the horror genre and stuff, Stephen King is probably one of those authors you read a lot. But other than that, not really not really an author that draws a lot of people in outside of a few standout books.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about the genre to be like, well, no, there's this guy, this guy, this guy. It's like Stephen King is kind of
The big name, but that's because a lot of his stuff has been adapted to film.
yeah.
He actually directed one of his own movies.
Which one was that?
Maximum Overdrive,
Oh, okay.
where all technology, primarily vehicles, come to life and start hunting humans.
What is with him and like inanimate objects?
I don't know.
Like I think because it wasn't there was another one with a car. Yeah, I don't. Not Carrie, because that's not Stephen King. Heck, maybe everything in the past 50 years was written by Stephen King and we've had no idea. Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be scary. He
Um,
wrote Harry Potter? Wait, what? Can you imagine if he wrote Harry Potter?
there would be a lot more dead people. Or
And there are already a lot of dead people, but holy
yeah.
crap.
Spoiler alert, people die in Harry Potter. Yeah.
The book opens with that.
That's that was kind of
Like the first chapter.
that was kind of the point.
There are people who die.
It's kind of important.
Major
But-
spoiler.
Yes.
Life ends.
Yeah. Oh, I think I was talking to someone who had never read the books.
Oh, that's
And-
impressive.
Yeah, and like they didn't know they hadn't seen the movies either, and so
That's very impressive.
I was like,
How have they survived the last 10 years?
well, they got by, and apparently they didn't know anything. So I didn't think they knew anything, and so I didn't want to give away any spoilers to anything. It's like, so how much do you know? They're like, not that much. And so I was like,
They know all the major spoilers.
no. So I thought like nothing. So like
Sure.
no context. Just like witchcraft. And that was it. That was my assumption.
Sure.
But as we know, assumption does things. So I'm trying to remember. I don't know how it came up. Where something about Harry Potter's parents,
Okay.
and the person was like, well, I don't want to crap.
Uh-oh.
I don't
Uh-oh.
remember. Essentially, the whole thing was they didn't know that Harry Potter's parents died.
How?
I don't know.
That is
It's like-
literally the first thing that happens.
Or it's like, I wouldn't know what to. Oh, okay, I know. I remember now.
Okay.
The person was like, I wouldn't know what I would do if I was Harry Potter's mother, and I was just like,
Well, first off, you die.
I was like, do I tell them that
I feel
the
like that's not a
parents-
spoiler.
Well, no, but it's kind.
I mean, it's
but
a
it's
plot
still
device.
it's still important.
Sure, but I don't think it's a spoiler.
It's just I was just
You were just kind of caught off guard.
I was just
like, wait.
like, so I had a little conundrum. Just like, so do I tell this person that the parents die, or B, let her keep thinking that, and then eventually like, that they die, right? I was like, oh, okay. Like there wasn't really any negative repercussions, which is good.
Yeah, they died like before the actual beginning of the book. That night they died.
Oh yeah, I haven't read the books in a really long time, so it's like
The book opens with
With-
wizards celebrating Voldemort's death,
mm-hmm.
which means
Yeah.
the Potters died.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the first chapter.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you've missed when the first book come out, the 90s.
Well, hey, you know
Hey,
what?
look! Hey, digital brain. I'm gonna I'm thinking, cause wow, holy crap! It's been
1997. The first book was released.
Hey, what month?
Doesn't say.
Okay,
I can probably look it up, but it doesn't say.
cause wow.
June 26th.
Wow. So, I've been around about as long as Harry Potter. Wow, it's kind of weird.
We didn't really catch on till a few years after that.
In the U.S. or just
Yeah.
in general.
Well, in general, I think it was the first two books were out before it really kind of started like gaining traction because that's when the movies
2000.
started like they started talking about making the movies.
It's interesting that they didn't catch on, but they still wanted to make movies.
Well, I think that a production company saw the potential,
Mm-hmm.
and they like started to catch on, but they weren't like.
Chris Columbus is like, ooh.
Well, I think that like they weren't household names, but they were especially in the genre, like the wizarding and the fantasy genre, they were definitely picking up momentum, and they were only 2 books out.
Yeah. That's kind
Of course, the whole controversy around them, I think, really helped to boost it up.
Yeah, that's
At least in our circles, there was controversy around them because, big reveal about us. Our families are very conservative Christians.
Yep.
And so that was the circles we grew up in. I consider myself a conservative Christian now, proudly. And the big debate came out when the books were released is, do we let the kids read them?
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of magic in it, specifically wizarding and witchcraft.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole series is based on. Because I'd read series and I'd read books and stuff when they came out, by the time it picked up around us, where it was like magic was whatever. I mean, it's even in Land West and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, it's
That wasn't the thing. Well, the thing was how much there was. The whole thing was learning magic. And so there was a big controversy in our circles, at least in my circles.
if you don't remember that, whoa, it was kind of a thing.
Again, I don't think it was in every circle. I think it was just mostly in Christian circles.
Yeah.
Or religious circles.
Definitely. Kind of the same thing with I'm pretty sure the same thing happened with Pokemon.
Again, I never got into it.
Because I think the whole thing was since it was like teaching kids evolution, which is kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I would go more off the dogfighting angle.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what it was. I think
It's kind of what it was.
well,
with a more magical twist.
well, there's not really any magic. It's just kind of like
I said more magical, not actual magic.
okay, yeah. It's like, oh, your Pokemon fainted.
Yeah, but
as-
it's essentially dogfighting. with fantasy creatures.
Yeah. So
Sorry for any Pokemon fans.
yeah. Well, I mean, I just purchased a Game Boy emulator, so I've been playing those again.
Maybe you have a better understanding. I never got into them. I never got into the card game. I never got into
Yeah.
the.
I've only played the
video
video
games.
games
I
and seen
got
the
into
anime.
You're actually the only person in my family, I think, to ever own a Pokemon card was my sister. Because she thought one of them looked cool and someone at school gave her one. She then promptly lost it like a year later.
And it was just one.
I think it was just one.
A singular Pokemon.
I think. From what I remember, she had one. And it was
Mm.
just because she thought the animal looked cool. She didn't actually know what it was.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous if you ever dive into the world. It's like there's a lot of but it's like there's a lot of different Pokemon, but they're kind of copying each other. So it's like there's like 5 different, caterpillars and worms and
Sure. I don't know. If I were to ever play, I would go with the fire type. That would be my
your starter.
that would be my starter.
Yeah, I did that when I played Fire Red. I started with Charizard. Not Charizard.
Charmeleon?
Before that. What's the one before that? Oh, wow, I'm so bad. This is what happens when I don't sleep. Oh, why can't I think? Charmander. No. Yeah, I think it was Charmander.
I just said that.
You said Charmeleon.
Didn't I say Charmander before that?
Mm,
Maybe I didn't.
I don't know. But that's the one. That's the fire starter. Then Charmeleon, and then Charizard.
I just want the names. Good grief.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Good grief.
Yep. Did you?
Charmander. There we go.
Yeah, Charmander. Okay.
Then Charmeleon. Then Charizard.
But it's like it depends on what It's kind of like what you want to go for and yeah, it's a lot of strategy. Like, does this type beat this type? Does this type beat this type?
Well, sure, and I get that from having seen the people kind of play and talk about it, but I just never got into it. It was just never. I don't know. I don't think it was even like my parents cared. I
Yeah.
don't think that was part of it. I just think it was none of us had interest in it. They didn't.
They didn't push it.
They
You
didn't push it, so we just kind of skipped it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of a good and a bad thing, because now I have no idea what people are talking about. But at the same time, I never played Pokemon, so I'm never tied to anything.
Yeah.
I thought about playing Pokemon Go when it came out, just to kind of get into it.
I did briefly.
And I think if I'd still been living with Bryce, I would have, because he got into it. He used to play Pokemon, apparently, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. I kind of felt like a poser if I was going to do it, because I never played. I didn't watch the show. I didn't play the games. I didn't play the card games, anything like that. So I was like, I mean, I was only really going to do it for, like, the health benefits. It would get me walking around. It would kind of give me something to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could do that, but I have no one to do it with.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried it briefly, and I was just kind of like, this is cool, I guess. I don't know. Apparently, the company that made Pokemon Go is coming out with a Harry Potter AR-based app.
Ooh.
So,
See, that's tempting.
so that's something you could probably,
I'd have fun with that.
yeah.
Well, we are wrapping up at just about an hour now.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for Harry Potter AR. And I guess let us know what you guys are reading in the comments for anyone who actually decides to watch this. And then if you guys have any other topics or anything else you want us to talk about or give our thoughts on, leave those in the comments as well. And we will see you next time.
See you in the flip-flop.
No, that is not our sign off.